Hello everyone, I am a mysterious person who will tell you mysterious stories that I have heard as well as stories that you have sent to me. Today, I will bring you a story that I have edited, including changing the character's name and changing the location to a more strange place. Please listen to the story below. Père Lachaise Cemetery, one of the most famous and largest cemeteries in the world, located in the heart of Paris, France. This place is not only the resting place of thousands of historical figures and famous artists, but also famous for ghost stories and supernatural phenomena that no one can explain. Among them, the most terrifying is the legend of the ghost of the bride, a young girl in a white dress quietly appearing between the graves at night, bringing with her endless suffering. Alexander, a young man who loves to explore supernatural phenomena, does not believe in ghost stories or legends. One day, after hearing about the creepy stories at Père Lachaise Cemetery, he and a few close friends decided to go explore and witness what was happening. The group decided to enter the cemetery around midnight, when everything was dark and quiet. As soon as they entered, they felt a cold wind blowing through, making the whole group shiver. The space was dark and eerily silent, with only the dim moonlight shining down on the graves, creating long, shimmering shadows. The group began to go deeper into the ancient tomb area, where people often talk about the ghost of the bride. After walking for a while, Elena, a girl in the group, suddenly felt uneasy and advised everyone to turn back. She said in a trembling voice, "I feel like something is wrong. I should go back." However, the group laughed and continued walking for a while, when suddenly a dim light appeared in the distance. It was the blurry figure of a girl wearing a long white dress, gliding lightly through the graves. The group stopped, their hearts pounding. No one dared to speak. The girl in the white dress seemed to not belong to this world, floating silently in the air. Her face was pale, her black eyes were empty, staring into the distance. The group tried to muster up the courage to step forward and call out, "Who is this? Who are you?" But there was no response. The bride's figure still stood silently, her lifeless eyes staring straight at Alexander. Alexander felt as if that gaze was piercing into the depths of his soul, carrying with it an indescribable pain. The group began to feel uneasy, turned around, and was about to leave the cemetery. But as they turned around, they heard light footsteps behind them, the sound of a wedding dress rustling on the ground. They turned around and were startled to see the ghost of the bride standing closer. Her face became even darker and thinner, carrying a cold breath that blew into their eyes like the breath of a prisoner. Alexander shouted loudly, pulling his friends' hands to run towards the exit. But the group could not escape the feeling of being followed. The sound of footsteps, the rustling of old dresses rang in their ears as if the ghost of the bride was chasing them. When they ran near the gate, a strong wind blew and the street lights suddenly went out, leaving the space in complete darkness. The group stopped, gasping for breath at that moment. Alexander felt a cold hand touch his shoulder. When he turned around, he saw the bride's face right in front of him, her eyes empty and her lips moving, as if she wanted to say something. She spoke again in a soft voice that echoed in the night like a sound from another world. Alexander's back was cold, his legs trembling, and he could no longer move. Just when he thought he was about to faint, the street light suddenly turned back on and the ghost of the bride disappeared as if it had never existed. The group stood there stunned for a moment before regaining their composure and running quickly out of the cemetery, saying they would never return to this place again. In the following days, Alexander still could not escape the image of the ghost bride. He kept having nightmares in his dreams. The girl in the white dress still appeared standing silently beside the graves, her sad eyes filled with pain. He decided to tell Mary, an older friend who was knowledgeable about supernatural phenomena, about the story the group had experienced. After listening, Mary quietly said, "That is the ghost of Isabel, the young bride, who slowly died right before the wedding day because of the sudden annulment. Since then, her soul has been wandering in Père Lachaise cemetery, carrying endless pain and resentment. It is said that anyone who accidentally meets her at night will be cursed to haunt her forever." Alexander always avoided cemeteries and deserted areas at night, but every time he passed by Père Lachaise, he still felt an invisible presence, a cold wind blowing as a reminder of the ghostly story that had happened that terrible night. The story of the ghost bride at Père Lachaise cemetery continues to spread. People who pass through the cemetery at night often report strange phenomena: the rustling of wedding dresses, a shadowy figure passing through the graves, and sometimes the image of a girl standing beside the path, her face full of pain, then suddenly disappearing when someone approaches. Whatever the truth, the ghost bride remains part of the creepy legends of Paris, making the faint-hearted afraid to set foot in the cemetery after nightfall. One night, Alexander decided to return to Père Lachaise cemetery to learn more about Isabel's story. He brought along a camera and recording equipment to prove the existence of the ghost. As he entered the cemetery, the cold air continued to surround him. He went to Isabel's tomb, where there was a small gravestone with her name on it. Alexander began to ask about the history and events surrounding Isabel's death. As the sky began to lighten, Alexander sensed something was wrong. A cold wind blew, forcing him to hug his coat tightly against it. Suddenly, the faint light of dawn began to filter through the dense trees, creating long, eerie shadows. Alexander saw a shadowy figure appear in the distance, walking slowly and silently toward him. "Isabel!" Alexander called her name in a trembling voice. The ghost stopped, turning to look at him with empty, sorrowful eyes. He felt a strong energy coming from her, as if her soul was trying to convey an important message. Suddenly, the surrounding light disappeared, leaving only darkness and a soft whisper like an unanswered prayer. Alexander decided to record everything he witnessed. When he returned home and reviewed the recordings, he discovered the sound of faint whispers. Like a plea for Isabel's soul to be released, he sensed a determination to help her find final peace. From there, Alexander began to delve deeper into the history of Père Lachaise cemetery and find a way to help Isabel find rest. He teamed up with Marie and a paranormal research group to learn about the rituals and methods that help souls find their way out. One night, the group of friends decided to hold a vigil at Isabel's tomb, hoping to help her find peace. They brought candles, flowers, and heartfelt prayers. As the ceremony began, the atmosphere became more solemn and somber than ever. Suddenly, the candles began to flicker, and a dim light appeared around the tomb. Isabel's ghost appeared, but this time, she didn't look sad. Her eyes lit up with hope, and a soft smile appeared on her face. "Thank you," Isabel said in a soft, peaceful voice. The light slowly faded, and the air grew warmer. The group felt a sense of peace, knowing that they had helped Isabel find her final rest. Since then, the legend of the ghost of the bride at Père Lachaise cemetery has become less a horror story and more a story of redemption and kindness. The cemetery still retains its historical and spiritual beauty, but now visitors come not only to pay their respects but also to send their prayers and affection. The story ends here. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to help my channel develop and motivate me to make the next stories. Goodbye and see you again.